Good morning, folks. Welcome to a tropical cyclone Fili update, where we'll also take a close look at the future development of a low pressure system in the Solomon Sea as it tracks in a south-southwest direction into the western and central Coral Sea over the next few days. This update is brought to you by our major sponsor, Townsville Sheds and Garages. Real sheds, real value. Check them out at townsvillesheds.com. If you're in the market for a shed, remember that they can deliver your shed safe accredited shed kits Australia-wide. If we take a look at the latest imagery from Fili, we can see here that Fili is located just on the western edge of all this deep convection. See all this deep convection streaming off it? That's on the eastern side of the circulation. The centre of circulation is located out here, just on the western flank of that, and currently located probably around, let's have a look here, probably around 200 or so kilometres to the west to west-northwest of Noumea. The expectation is that it's going to continue shifting in a south-southeast direction. It's probably going to get it to its closest point of approach this afternoon to Noumea. It's not going to, the centre of the circulation, so that all the meaty bits, the strong bits of the circulation aren't going to be impacting the mainland around Noumea, so don't stress about that. It will be windy though, so expect to see a very windy day, particularly through this afternoon and this evening once the winds turn more north-northwesterly and they're able to come off the water directly at you. That's when you're going to probably feel like it's going to be the windiest across the main centre of the island. Latest radar imagery from the New Caledonian Met Office shows us the general track towards the south-southeast. Jesus, go slow. General track towards the south-southeast. And you can see all that really intense rainfall is actually impacting parts of the coastline. That's that deep convection that we're seeing on satellite to the southeast. So there's our centre of circulation. There's not much on the western side of that. It's not just a radar attenuation thing. There's literally not much going on the western side of it. So all of the deep convection is actually between the coast and the lows and the cyclone centre. So you can see that reflected here in the radar imagery. And you can see generally that the actual centre of circulation is drifting to the south-southeast. So let me bring you to the first image versus the last image. So you can see quite clearly there the system's adopting this south-southeast motion. It's going to stay well offshore, but remember, it's that eastern side of the circulation that's packing a definite rain punch. And then once the circulation goes past, it's the north-northwesterly flow that comes directly on the coastline. Let's have a look at what some of the latest observations are from the western side of the island. Kumak reported 55 knots and before it stopped recording, and then 34 knots after it started recording again, which is unfortunate that we've got a fair bit of missing data there right in the meaty part of the storm a few hours back. Other areas of the mainland, not sure how you say it, Coney or Cone, you can see just in there, and they've got up to 36 knots coming through. So solid winds, but nothing that's cyclonic there. From Poe, we've got winds up around 80 kilometres an hour from the northeast. So once again, strong winds, but nothing that you could say is cyclonic. And then Buraki, how you say it, this one here. You can see here northerlies coming through at about 40 to 50 knots. So once again, nothing too cyclonic, but those winds are getting up there. They're getting up to around 80 to 90 kilometres an hour. It's more than just your typical, southeasterly or breezy type day. This is a little bit on top of that. But it's nothing like what we've seen the last few systems where we've had winds up around 120, 140 kilometres an hour. We're not anticipating that to occur here. And so far, Noumea, nothing too dramatic there. However, as I said, the strongest winds for Noumea will be coming later today. The New Caledonian Met Office suggesting that Category 2 winds are underway across the central and central western and northwestern parts of the island. Haven't seen much evidence of that in the observations, but certainly seeing evidence of gales, and that's this yellow area. So gusting up to damaging sort of wind range. So looking at those winds between 34 and 48 knots. So Category 1 on the Australian scale, and you could certainly make an argument there that there has been Category 1 impacts across New Caledonia there. There was potentially Category 2 impacts right on the northern edge of the island, but that happened last night. But there's certainly Category 1 impacts right now over the western part of the island. And as that system tracks through, those Category 1 impacts will nudge the coastline as we get towards Noumea, probably staying just below Category 1 threshold. But you never know, with that north-northwesterly flow, there could be a squall line that comes through that just pushes us right up into that Category 1 range if we're unlucky. Anyway, the expectation is the system's going to track south-southeast, southeast, and then stall out here as it weakens or transitions. So looking at the sort of wind gusts we can experience, looking at the UK Met model, and it tends to be, it's been really good the last couple of cyclones around here when it comes to the expectation of winds. I know from the last system that went through here, it was basically spot on. The winds experienced were a little bit stronger than they were expected to in most of the other global models. The UK Met nailed it. Right, so what we can see here is as we go into 10, 11, 12 p.m. today, Queensland time, this is all Queensland time, so you'll need to add a couple of hours in New Caledonian time. So you can see here that all the really strong winds, the winds associated with the core of the circulation are well offshore. We're still getting strong winds though, gusting up to around 50 to 55 knots potentially, close to the coastline there. So around that 50 knot mark close to the coast. So this is what we're talking about, Category 1 winds. And notice on the eastern side too, those northerlies are packing quite a punch as well on the eastern side of the island. So it's that eastern side of the system that is packing all the rain, and it's also packing quite a bit of wind. The front left quadrant always tends to be the strongest quadrant, and that's this southeastern section of the system just in here. And you can see their winds getting up to about 140 or 150 kilometres an hour. Right, the expectation is as we push into this afternoon and this evening, notice here that we are starting to see increasing winds around the more populated southern section of the island, including places like Noumea. And then as we progress through into this evening and tonight, notice here that once again, the destructive core of the system remains well offshore, so well offshore. However, there are increasing winds across the southern part of the island, gusts up to around 50 to 55 knots in the southeast, and around Noumea you can see gusts still around that 35 to 40 knot range as we progress into tonight. Now, as we go into tonight and the system pushes away to the southeast, what we do is we change the flow. So rather than having an easterly, northeasterly, northerly flow, we start to get a northwesterly flow. Now, what this means is that instead of coming over land, some of this wind is starting to come over the water. So Noumea is not quite as well protected once the winds come over the water. And so you can see here that we're getting gusts up to 40 to 45 knots there through the nighttime hours, overnight tonight, early tomorrow. So that's when we're anticipating some of our strongest winds around the more populated section of the island is tonight and into even early tomorrow morning. Could be a bit gusty and blowy. Now, as we get up in the morning, we can see that those winds are decreasing. Still a blowy day, still a windy day, but nothing too dramatic there. So tonight, we could see gusts getting up to around that 50 knot range or 45 to 50 knot range around Noumea by the looks of that. So you can see that we're getting, as those northwesterlies come in, they come in directly off the water. They don't come in over the land, so that the mountains don't have a chance to stop some of those winds. But certainly a rainy day today. If we take a look here at the MSLP precip forecast for today for Noumea and the eastern and southern parts of the island, you can see there through the morning quite a bit of shower activity, and then as the cyclone circulation passes to the southwest, there's the secondary maximum of orographic lift going on across the southeastern section of the island. And then you can see here as we progress into the overnight early morning period on that northwesterly flow, there's a chance there at some squeezing or some convergence going on, creating some heavy shower activity. But that's the expectation from a timing perspective and from a effects perspective on the ground if you're in Noumea. So expect to see a pretty wild and woolly night tonight with regards to winds. That's when they're going to peak is the nighttime hours. So once again, it gets a little bit scary because through the day there's nothing much going on, and then into the night, that's when things pick up a bit. But listen, there's nothing more there than a very borderline weak Category 1 impact, just like the New Caledonian Met Bureau is showing you on the on their forecast charts. So just a very weak Category 1 impact there on Noumea. This is the 5th time in 2 years, I believe, that this area has been hit by a cyclone, or by hit we mean within 200 k's of a cyclone. So it's quite an impressive number. And looking at the accumulation of rainfall, we can see that all the big heavy rain around the system is located just on the just along the track and just to the east of the track, and then we've got this secondary maximum of precip on the eastern side of the island, and that's associated with the orographic lift between the northerlies, northeasterlies getting squeezed, and then the mountain ranges squeezing them even harder. We still got quite a bit of rain though for the western section, just nothing like the stuff that's going to be happening on the east, and nothing like the stuff that's going to be happening near the core of the circulation. But that's where we are with the rainfall, folks. That's where we are with the wind for this part of the world. This will be the last update for this system. By tomorrow morning, when it's time to do our next update, the system will have gone past, and it'll be impacting you less and less. All right, have a good day, stay safe, and we'll talk again next time. Right, that's where the general public will leave us. For subscribers, let's get up into the Northern Coral Sea. There's a fair bit of stuff going on up there.